Bitcoin for Blockheads, the No More Than Your Friends Guide to Bitcoin and the Blockchain. Written by Tasheme Thomas, narrated by Tasheme Thomas. Chapter 1. What is Bitcoin? Direct answer: Bitcoin is a digital currency based around cryptographic algorithms. The Bitcoin White Paper, the document that introduced Bitcoin to the world, written by Satoshi Nakamoto, defines Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. There are debates as to who Satoshi Nakamoto is, and whether it's even one person, but all of that can be discussed later. Underneath the hood, Bitcoin is simply a system of rules that, by using cryptography, allow for two users to transfer value without a third-party authority. Basically, just like email allows for two people to send messages directly to one another, Bitcoin allows two parties to send money directly to one another. That can't be all there is to it though, right? Something that's simple wouldn't generate the kind of fervor that Bitcoin has created. It wouldn't make your coworker talk about it endlessly, right? There's truthfully so much that we need to cover, so I'm just going to start from the top. Where did it all begin? Depending on how old you are, you may remember the late 90s .com boom. Around this time, an application named Napster showed up. This application allowed, or maybe allows, not sure if it's still around, users to put music online that other users could download quickly, but also illegally. The website immediately faced a massive backlash and was eventually shut down, to our dismay. As time went on, alternate applications such as Kazaa, LimeWire, BitTorrent, etc. were created. All of these are what we refer to now as peer-to-peer networks. If you don't know what any of these are, don't worry too much about it. Just know that this is where our blockchain story begins. While you might have had a great time jamming out to AFI with your obnoxious haircut that demonstrated just how nonconformist you were, inadvertently, you were also participating in a decentralized network. What makes decentralized technologies so interesting is that they do not have to be run through a trusted authority. Historically, computers connected from client to server. There was some massive warehouse and a place with reasonably priced real estate costs that was filled wall to wall with computers. These servers held all of the information that you would download onto your computer. Similarly, you could upload information from your computer to these servers. When Napster was created, Sean Parker popularized the peer-to-peer network. Instead of going through a centralized authority like a record company, users could upload music to the network, and other users could then download the music to their computers for free. Each computer held a little bit of the data in the network, providing a little bit of the content that made the network work. While the peer-to-peer technological advancement was negatively received by bands like Metallica, still the least metal thing they've ever done, well, excluding Load and Reload. It also allowed for Radiohead to receive worldwide acclaim and reach the Billboard 200 for the first time with their album Kid A. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Now that we have discussed the peer-to-peer portion, let's talk about the cash system. I can see you now rolling your eyes at me. Tasheme, I know what a cash system is. Yeah, I know. It should be intuitive, but there are some underlying rules that are rarely considered, which we need to talk about. For something to be considered a cash system, it is required to fulfill three main criteria. It needs to be a store of value, it needs to be a unit of account, and finally, it needs to be a medium of exchange. A good store of value is anything that can maintain its wealth without depreciating. Gold is a good store of value because it maintains its worth over time. Avocados are a horrible store of value because they can go bad fairly quickly. If a nation state's currency is a poor store of value, This would discourage people from using their currency. This would limit trade, and it would generally compromise people's willingness to participate in the economy. To the right is an image of 1923 Germany. When the Republic of Weimar experienced hyperinflation, wheelbarrows of cash were required to buy everyday items. Not good. A proper unit of account makes sense of prices, costs, and profits. If your currency cannot be used to measure value, then it's functionally worthless. How would anyone use it? That's like when you're playing with children and they're saying their toy is worth 2 doodads, but each doodad is worth 5 whatchamacallits. However, each whatchamacallit can trade 1 for a toy. It's incoherent. Lastly, a currency needs to be a medium of exchange. The currency is agreed upon standard by all parties and is used to facilitate trade of goods and services. We are likely very familiar with this in practice. See, that wasn't too bad. Now that we have an understanding about what I mean when I say cash system or currency, let's proceed. What is a cryptocurrency? Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency. There is a complicated system of rules written by Jan Lansky that lists 6 different features of a cryptocurrency. But for the layman, all you really need to know is it's a currency that is secured via cryptography. Simple. The first thing we need to understand to get to the heart of what a cryptocurrency is would be cryptography, the crypto in cryptocurrency. You don't need to be able to do cryptography, but you should know what it is. If you're like me, you might wonder what keeps your data safe in your computer, why you can't access other people's bank accounts, why other people can't access your bank account, etc. If you're not like me and you don't worry about these things, I'm going to tell you about it anyway. Haha. Cryptography is the practice of techniques to secure information. Let's pack up. Time to go home. Clearly, there's more to it than that. Have you ever sent a secret message to your friend in history class? Your teacher was babbling on about something boring that happened during the Byzantine Empire that you don't care about because Casey and Taraji are having a secret steamy romance their parents don't approve of. I can't say this happened to me because I was the nerd who actually paid attention to history class, but I believe that's happened to most of you to some degree or another. In order to keep this message a secret, you decided to shift all the letters over by 5 because it makes the message look garbled, like nonsense, and the person will likely just throw it out if they run into it. This is cryptography, and that was called a Caesar cipher. In the 21st century, you have significantly more advanced methods of securing messages than that, but the fundamentals are still the same. Let's say Alice and Bob want to send a message to one another, and they don't want a third party to read the message. Alice would encode the message, or plaintext, with cryptography. There would be some rule the other person would have to follow in order to turn the jumbled alphabet soup, or cipher, back into a legible plaintext message. Are you still with me? That rule is called an algorithm. It wouldn't take a particularly intelligent person, especially if they're armed with a computer, to break the cryptographic scheme I used in my Caesar cipher example. If you just had to know about the steamy romance between Casey and Taraji, you could figure out what that message said. There are only 26 letters in the alphabet, and if you look at the message, there's a very good chance that at least one of the words ends with the letter S, or that there is a 1-letter word like I or A, that there are 3-letter words like the, and, or for. With any one of these vulnerabilities, you could try all 26 possible shifts of your letters and figure out what the common shift number is. If you are using a computer, you could just reprint the message 26 different times with each of the shifts, and you can do it in less than a second. Out of necessity, we came up with more complicated ciphers. These usually involve a key. In your day-to-day life, you should be familiar with this. The password to your email account is a key. Your ATM PIN, your fingerprint, etc. All of these are private keys. The assumption is only you or a trusted party are privy to the private key, and because of that, this can be used as your personal entry point to the secured information. Obviously, even this can create issues, but we will ignore those for now. Back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin uses modern cryptography to secure transactions. Why is it called Bitcoin? Why can't I capitalize the C? To bring it all together, the bit refers to the peer-to-peer portion and the coin to the currency aspect. Bitcoin is a portmanteau, a pretentious way of saying compound word that makes you seem super cool, and every once in a while, it'll win you a trivia game. Of those two, you can't capitalize the C because it makes you look like you don't know what you're talking about. Luckily for you, at this point in the book, you know more than at least 50% of the people on the planet who exist at the time of me writing this. As far as capitalizing the B, there's a bit of contention. From what I can tell, you capitalize the B when you're referring to Bitcoin as an entity, and it's lowercase when you're talking about it as a currency, like US dollars versus $8.